Hey guys, it's Garrett being Garrett. Today we're going to be setting up forward programming on a plane. And if you don't know what forward programming is, it's pretty much a tool on your radio that helps you set up AS3X, gains, and safe select. And it's a really great thing that they've come up with in the past couple of years. And it works on, I'm using the IX20 right now, but it works on DX6, DX8, DX9, most of the NX series, and most of the IX series. So let's get right into it. So I'm going to go straight from scratch right here. I'm going to start out with a new model. So I'm going to go up here, add new model, do default. It's a plane. We'll go ahead and create it. So once I do that, I'm going to go back out, and it's going to bring me to this screen, which is kind of the normal screen where you would be flying at. So now that we got the plane bound up, we'll just get right into the forward programming part of things. So we'll go into model adjust, and right there, it should say forward programming. If it doesn't, either one, you might not have the right receiver to do forward programming. Some receivers won't do it. Here's a list of the ones that will do it. And if you still don't see it and you have one that is forward programming capable, the plane does have to be powered on, or the receiver has to be powered up for it to show forward programming. So we'll go right into forward programming. Throttle cut does have to be enabled to get into it. So if you don't have throttle cut on and you try and go in, it'll give you a warning. But as soon as you put throttle cut on, it goes right in. So on this receiver that I put in this plane, I think it came out of a different plane. So I'm going to go into other settings and do a factory reset on this one. And when you do that, it should reset kind of the plane. I like to do that because you never know kind of what that receiver came out of. It could have been a jet, could have been a, warbird, and all those fly different. And if you put it in a sport jet, it might fly, it's going to be programmed for a warbird. It's going to fly totally different. After you've done that, you're starting from scratch. So you can go into gyro settings. It'll say first time setup. So it'll say make sure the model has been configured, including the wing type, reversing, travel, trimmed, all that. If one of those is off, like it says on this next screen, you'll have to go through the whole forward programming setup again. So it'll say set the model level and press continue. So I'm going to set it manually, and right now mine is pins toward the back on its side, which is position 2. So I'm going to do continue, but I will show you that even if you go back to this screen, you set the plane level, press continue, it'll say hold it down at 90 degrees. It still tells me position 2. After we do that, we're going to go next, and we'll say apply. And the plane should make a couple beeps and a flick of the flight controls, which it did. It'll tell you that receiver's rebooting. You can just go back up here and press connect on the IX. Go back into gyro settings. Now you'll see the screen is totally different. You got AS3X settings, flight mode, setup, system setup, and first time safe setup. So I like to go in, even if I'm not going to use safe on a plane, I like to go in and set it up anyways and just get it out of the way. So it's going to ask you for a flight mode channel. And so you'll tell the channel right here, which can be, as you see, gear, aux1, aux2, aux3, and it goes on. So I like to set mine. This plane has flaps and gear, so I'm only going to be using pretty much up to aux1. But I like to go ahead and get it out of the way and set it like on a far off channel like aux3, and just get it out of the way. So once, by default, aux3 is set to the R knob. So then from that, once you've got your channel as aux3, you can set it to whatever switch you want. I'll just set it to E2. You can set it to whatever switch you want, whatever you're comfortable with. Once you got that, it'll say next. You go next, and then you press continue. It'll ask you flight mode 3, and there's flight mode 1 when I flick the switch up. Now, right here, this is where you can set up your safe pretty much. So I'm going to set it up as right there. Flight mode 3, I'm going to have safe or angle demand. And when I flick that switch up, it should go off. which it does. It goes to inhibit. And down below, you can set up your angle limits in safe. If you want to get a little bit more bank or pitch out of it, you can always change these values. So after you go through that, it'll say apply, and it should flick the flight controls twice this time. There's one, there's two. So after it does that, go back to connect, go back to gyro settings, and now you'll see they're all kind of packed together. You got AS3X, safe, flight mode, setup, and system setup. I personally like to go to flight mode setup, and there's, as you saw a while ago, there's flight mode 3, there's flight mode 1. So as you see in this flight mode, I've got safe on and AS3X. On this flight mode, I just have AS3X. If you want to go in and change your flight mode channel, you can easily access that right there at the top of the screen. System setup, there's all these things, like if you want to change your orientation or relearn your servo settings, and the gain channel where you can change your gain while you're in flight, that's where you can get to in there. Safe settings, there's your gains, which I only have them on flight mode 3 because I only have safe on flight mode 3. On flight mode 1, I don't have safe, so it's not going to show me any gains. If you're going to have your gains for safe, where you're changing them in flight, instead of having fixed, you could do them to adjustable. But that's only if you're going to be changing them while you're flying. And in AS3X settings, you can set your sensitivity. So usually if you have a small light plane, you can set your gain higher. But on most planes, you leave it at 1x. So there's 1x, and then there's 2x, and then there's 4x. So 4x would be like extremely, extremely high gain. So we'll leave that at 1x. Now, down here on fixed, on adjustable gains, as you saw in safe, it was automatically set to fixed. Now on this, in AS3X, it's set to adjustable. So if you don't have it on a switch or a knob where it's ready to be changed, then it'll never work. And set those to fixed. If you don't, you'll try everything and AS3X will still not work. So set those to fixed, and you can do it in safe too. After you do that, you can go back, and there's your gains for flight mode 1 and flight mode 3. So if you wanted to change that, you could go into roll. Let's say it's doing a lot of wing waving. You could put those down to about 25 or so. And let's say if it's doing it on the yaw, you could turn them down. That right there is pretty much it on the Ford program. And as you saw, it's pretty easy. Nothing really to it. Once you get to learn it, it goes by pretty quick, and you'll realize it's a pretty great tool to have.